Hello learners, welcome to BEDS 002 Week 9 Part 1. In today's lecture, we will be discussing period of value development and socialization. In the previous lectures, in the previous sessions, you must have already gone through the meaning of values as being an integral part of every culture. Along with beliefs, they generate and have an impact on the behavior of an individual. Most of us learn our values or morals at home, at school, or from our community, that is neighborhood. Mostly the values which we follow come from parents, teachers, and religious leaders. So these are the group of people who influence us the most, that is parents. As we say, home is the first school of learning, and then teachers, because most of us spend our formal years in educational institutions, and then every one of us have certain religious identity. We are affiliated to certain religion, we follow certain religion. We may be a Hindu, we may be a Muslim, a Sikh, a Christian, and so on. So religious leaders also have a very important role to play in inculcating values in us, and also the community, our peer group, also have a significant role to play. With the increased involvement of technology in our lives, we are also influenced by the media through what we see and hear on television or on the radio. So with the increase of technology, for example, what I'm doing is, because of the increase in technology, I'm taking an online class through the Swayam portal. I'm having a course which is BEDS 002. I'm reaching out to you, dear students. This is because of the increase in technology, the update, because technology has been so updated that now I can speak to you using technology. So this is technology in its form, in its increased involvement in our lives. We are influenced by media through what we see and hear, and whatever the source of our values, they become an important part of our lives as they form norms, rules for our behavior in specific situations. Additionally, through them we identify why or what we should be judged as good or evil. So values can be learned, or values can be inculcated through the media, because media can be seen, media can be heard, and also other than the parents, the teachers, religious leaders, the neighborhood, or the peer group, technology has a very important role to play in inculcating values. This is to say that whatever the source of our values, it could be the media, it could be the school, it could be the teachers, it could be the parents, religious leaders, neighbors. What is important is how values make us a better citizen, how values help us to practice the norms of the society and also follow the rules of the society. And additionally, through these values that we have formed, we identify what should be judged as good or evil. Certain behavior would be judged as good, certain behavior would be judged as evil. This is according to the values which we have formed or inculcated through media and other influence. After observing the moral decay in just about every area of our lives, we have seen that there has been moral decaying in our society with the incidents of kidnapping, killing. We have seen religious intolerance spreading. We have communalism spreading. Then we have a lot of abuse against women, children. So our society has to be turned back to the traditional values that guided this great nation to its great heights. These traditional values have guided this nation to greatness. So we have to come out of this moral decay, because in the earlier years, before this present situation. We have seen the traditional values which was followed by almost every members of the society. We have respect for the elders. We had such unity. We had such tolerance with our neighbors. We have lived together with people from various religious backgrounds. Now we are seeing in the present situation that there is moral decaying. We are seeing a lot of communalism. We don't know who our neighbors are anymore, and we tend to have a lot of anger and hatred. So we have to go back to the traditional values that made this a great nation, which took this nation to greatness. And in order to pass these values on to children, three components are essential. When we talk about values, and when we talk about how we should inculcate values on the future generation, that is our children, your children, my children, three components are essential. These are: number one, caring adults; then number two, age appropriate and purposeful activities; and number three, meaningful roles in the community or neighborhood. These are the three important components which are essential, wherein you can inculcate values to the children, the future generation. These are caring adults, age appropriate and purposeful activities, and meaningful roles in the community or neighborhood. The fact that all good education is in essence a process of developing the human personality in all its dimension: intellectual, physical, social, ethical, and moral. It is undisputed and universally accepted. Good education is inconceivable if it fails to inculcate values essential to good life, which aid social well-being. So when we talk about good education leads to the overall personality development. When we talk about overall personality development, it is developing the personality in its dimension of intellectual, physical, social, ethical, moral. And good education is inconceivable if it fails to inculcate values essential to good life and aid social well-being. Values are the standards that group members share by which they judge whether an action or even an object is good, right, and lawful. Values originate in the socio-cultural milieu of a social system, and thus they are governed by the standards of the society. It is due to this reason that the values of one social group differ from that of another. Let me talk about a society wherein women have an accepted, or women are expected to carry out certain roles, and this role, wherein the role would be that of a housewife, of a wife, and some society may not encourage women to go to work. However, there are certain society which would not mind women going out to work, helping the husband in the economic sphere. So there are certain societies, there are certain values which certain society accepts, and these values which are accepted by one society may not be accepted by the others. So values differ from one social group to another. What is considered good may not be considered good in another society. For example, the way women dress in a conservative society, a woman would not be encouraged to wear Western dress. Western dress in terms of would not be encouraged to wear pants or skirts, short skirts. In other society, women will have complete freedom to wear short skirts, pants, and so on and so forth. So the values of one social group differs from the other social group. To some, value education is simply a matter of developing appropriate behavior and habits, involving inculcation of certain virtues and habits. In opposition to such a view, it is pointed out that value education has an essentially cognitive component in it, and that this should not be ignored. Actually, the ability to make moral judgment based on sound reasoning is a very important aim of value education and has to be deliberately cultivated. So when we talk about value education, what is the very foundation of value education? Value education is wherein you inculcate values through education. When we talk about inculcating values, it is developing appropriate behavior and habits, like inculcating habit or behavior like respecting the elders, to be honest, to be punctual, to be clean, and also how to respect each other in the society, how to live in harmony with the other members of a society. Value education is important to help everyone in improving the value system that he/she holds and put it to use. Once all have understood their values in life, they can examine and control the various choices they make in their life. One has to frequently uphold the various types of values in his life, such as cultural values, universal values, personal values, and social values. So when we are talking about values, there are certain values which are universal. Universal, which means which is accepted in all society throughout the world. For example, respect to the elders, honesty, not to steal, all these are universal values. And there are certain cultural values, like in Indian society, we have certain cultural values. You have you have a saying, Atithi Namaudev, which means you should respect people who come and visit you, which means you should respect your guest. This is a cultural value which identifies the Indian society. Then you have certain personal values. My personal value is I believe in cleanliness is next to godliness, so I keep my things very clean. I keep myself, I come to office on time. I do not leave anything pending. I do not keep anything pending for the next day. Social values in terms of respecting the social norms of the society. That is, I get married I do not have children out of wedlock. I get married, and then I respect the social norms that you should not, the societal norms, my societal norm said having children out of wedlock is a taboo. So in order to be a part of the to be a part of the society, because my society has this accepted norm that I should be married to have children, so I respect this. So there are various type of values, and this could be universal values, where I have explained what is universal values, what is cultural values, what is personal values, and what is social values. We all know that we are not born with values. So how do we develop our values? We can say that the values are acquired by us from our immediate environment. When we talk about our immediate environment, it would be our families, because they are our school, our first school of learning. Our families are our first school of learnings, then neighbors, our peer groups. So these are the immediate environment, and a society is formed through a plurality of shared norms, customs, values, traditions, social roles, symbols, and languages, and an individual has to acquire them in order to maintain social and cultural continuity with the society. The process through which this can be achieved is known as socialization. So when we talk about the customs, the norms, and the traditions which have to be acquired and which has to be passed on to the future generation, there is a process which is called socialization. This process of socialization is helped by the family, the peer group, the neighbors. It is through these group of people, it is through this immediate environment wherein we learn what are our customs, what are our traditions, what are our values. We also learn what is our role, our social role. We also learn certain symbols. We also learn certain languages and so on and so forth. So this is the process of socialization, wherein the family, the neighbors, the peer group help us to inculcate values, and these values that we have inculcated, we pass it on to the next generation. Socialization provides members of the society, it provides individual with the skills and habits necessary for participating within the society, and it takes place through fond education. It takes place through education in schools, through non-formal programs, or through informal education such as family upbringing. During this process, values are developed as we grow. The various periods of this development, as per sociologist Moms Massey, can be divided into three major periods. So when we talk about the process of value development, we are talking about three major periods wherein this process of social development will take place. And we have talked about how skills and habits and values are very important for us to participate within our society. If we do not follow the norms, or if we do not practice the habits which are accepted by the society, then we are reflecting what is called deviant behavior. We will be outcast in the society. So we need to acquire skills and habits which are necessary for participating within society, and these habits are inculcated through formal education or non-formal programs, through family, and so on and so forth. A sociologist by the name of Moms Massey says that this period of development, this period of social development, this period of how values are developed is or can be divided into three major periods. These are the imprint period. What is imprint period? The imprint period, this period starts from the time of the birth of a child to the age of around 7. During this period, Moms Massey has described individual as being like sponges which absorb everything around them. According to him, an individual accepts everything as truth, especially when it comes from parents. Sometimes the confusion and blind belief which is developed during this period can also lead to the early formation of trauma and other deep problems. So the role of the parents are very important in the imprint period, because when we talk about this period, this is the period when everything which is taught by the parents, or the actions which are seen by the children or the child, stays in his or her mind, in his memory for a long time. So it is this period wherein the parents have to be very careful on how they speak or how they conduct, and what are the values they are inculcating in the child or in the children. So this is the imprint period wherein the child absorb everything, they believe everything what the parents are saying. So this period, which is called the imprint period, starts from the time of birth to the age of around 7, which is a very important period. The important point here is to learn a sense of right and wrong, good and bad. This is a human construction which we nevertheless often assume would exist even if we were not there. This is an indication of how deeply imprint this construct becomes. So we have to be very careful and very careful and behave properly in front of a child, in front of the children, because whatever you do or whatever you tell them stays for a long time. That is the imprint period. Then we have the second period, which is the modeling period. This is the period which is between the age of 8 and around the age of 13. During this time, the individuals copy others, often parents, but also other people like teachers, film stars, sports persons, and so on. At this stage, one tries to experiment and sometimes also gets influenced by new ideas. So, modeling, from the name itself, modeling, you model yourself, you model yourself according to your idol. Your idol could be your teacher in the school, it could be a film star, it could be a sports person. You model yourself according to a certain film star. Behave, you copy his or her hairstyle, the way he or she speaks, or the way a sports person conduct himself. A lot of youth have been very impressed with the showing of our great sportsmen and women who won a medal in this the recent Olympic event. We have seen a lot of youngsters wanting to get Olympic medal in future because they were very impressed by the showing of a sports person. So this is the period when there is a lot of influence on young minds, and they are also affected easily by how by the teachers, by the parents, by the film star, sports person, and it could be any other person whom they are really impressed with. So this is the stage when they try to experiment and sometimes get influenced by new ideas. These new ideas may be bad for the child. So in terms of bad, because there are certain image of a rock star which children would copy. They would try to behave like the rock star by smoking, or by leading a rock star life wherein he would abuse certain drugs and so on and so forth. So this is a period wherein we have to be very careful with these children who are easily influenced by people. Then we have the third period. The first period was imprint period, the second period was modeling period, and we have the third period, which is the socialization period. This period lies between the age of 13 and around 21. We all understand that this is a stage which is largely influenced by the peer group. We prefer people who seem more like us in terms of attitude, behavior, and perception. So during this time, during this age wherein we have children who entered their teenage years, or just before the teenage years, till they are around 21, they are greatly influenced by their peer group, because they feel that it is the peer group that understands them. They feel that it is the peer group who are similar to them in terms of their attitude, in terms of their perception, in terms of their attitude. So there is a lot of influence by the peer group during this time, which is socialization period. And it is very important that during this period, that is the socialization period, the teachers and the parents should be very careful that their child or their student or their children should not come under the influence of a bad peer group, because if they come under the influence of peer group, they may have, or they may reflect a deviant behavior. That is, they would reflect habits of drug abuse, they would and so on and so forth. They would reflect bad behavior if they are influenced by a bad peer group. So when we talk about socialization and this process of socialization helps you, or it is a process of inheriting norms and cultures of the society, and it provides the individual with the skills and habits necessary for participating within their own society. So socialization is good if you are not influenced by a bad peer group. Socialization is good because it helps you provide the habits and the skills wherein you participate within the society. You learn what are the customs, what are the values, what are the shared norms, what are the symbols and languages of your respective society. So socialization is a process which helps you to inherit norms and cultures. However, socialization should be avoided wherein if you are influenced by a peer group, bad peer group, so parents and teachers should be careful in not allowing students or their children or child to be influenced by a bad peer group. Since the values originate in the socio-cultural environment of the society, they are governed by the standards and norm of that particular society. Therefore, you may observe that each social system has a different value system which differentiates one social group for another. Elie Chinoy, in his standard textbook on sociology, says that socialization serves two major functions. On one hand, it prepares the individual for the roles he has to play, providing him or her with the necessary repertoire of habits, beliefs, values, appropriate patterns of emotional response, modes of perception, and requisite skills and knowledge. This is one role that socialization, or one of the major function of socialization, preparing the individual for roles he has to play, providing him with the necessary habits and beliefs to be learned, values to be learned. On the other hand, by communicating the contents of culture from one generation to the other, it provides for its persistence and continuity. So, when you talk about socialization, it is how individual or members in the society learn the habits and norms of the society, and by learning these norms and habits of the society, continuity is maintained. You do not forget the values that the society has inculcated and you pass it on to the next generation. And when we talk about socialization, when you talk about value development, this process of socialization, this process of value development starts from the individual birth and goes on till his or her death. It is a continuous process. And in other words, we can say that socialization results in internalization of those values which are symbolic of culture at that point of time. It is clear that development of value is an intrinsic process which is influenced by the process of socialization. So when we talk about socialization, when we are talking about value development, the role of the family, the role of the school, the peer group and media is very important. And we are going to discuss the role of family, the role of the school, the role of the peer group and mass media in the next lectures. Thank you, students and dear learners, for listening to this lecture.